The crowd gasped as Amina, the once poor village girl everyone used to mock, stepped out of the gleaming black Rolls-Royce Phantom. Her long gold dress shimmered under the afternoon sun as her husband Jide held her hand. But the whispers weren't about her beauty or grace. They were about the truth that had just shaken the entire village. Because standing before them, Jide, the man everyone thought was a penniless farmer, had just been exposed as the billionaire owner of JO Holdings, one of the largest real estate empires in Lagos. Women who once mocked Amina for marrying a nobody now hid their faces. Men who had refused Jide's friendship stared in disbelief. The same villagers who laughed when Amina's father forced her into the marriage were now trembling at the sight of the convoy that stretched across the dusty road. Jide Adewale, the government official on stage announced, voice shaking, "For your contribution to the nation's economy and your secret acts of charity across villages, you are hereby honored with the National Medal of Honor." Cameras flashed, reporters surged forward, and Amina, her heart pounding, remembered the day she first met this man everyone called the poorest of the poor. She had hated him then. She had cried all night before the wedding. But now, she could barely breathe, because she had just discovered that Jide had been testing everyone, including her, all along. The world seemed to spin. She turned toward him. His calm, unreadable eyes met hers. "You said you were a farmer," she whispered shakily. "I am," he replied softly. "But not all farmers sow seeds in the soil. Some sow them in people's hearts." Before she could speak, a black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. A tall woman in an elegant navy gown stepped out. Her face was familiar. Too familiar. "Jide," the woman said coldly, removing her sunglasses. "So this is where you've been hiding." The murmurs grew louder. Reporters turned their cameras toward her. Amina's throat tightened. The woman was Ngozi, Jide's ex-fiancée, rumored to be the daughter of one of the richest men in Nigeria. Jide froze, his confident smile fading for the first time that day. "What are you doing here?" he asked quietly. Ngozi's voice dripped with venom. "I came to collect what's mine. You didn't think you could hide forever, did you?" Amina's heart pounded. What was she talking about? But before anyone could ask another question, Ngozi raised her phone. On the screen was a video. The crowd went silent as the clip played, a grainy recording of Jide in a dark office, signing documents with a familiar logo in the corner, Aikenwell Group Holdings. A gasp rippled through the crowd. That was Ngozi's family company. Amina's legs wobbled. "Jide, what's going on?" she whispered. Jide's jaw clenched. His eyes darted toward the cameras, the crowd, and finally Amina. "It's not what it looks like." Ngozi's laugh was sharp and cold. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like. You married her to hide your past, but I'm here to expose it." The air turned heavy. Amina's vision blurred. She felt like she was falling. And just as she took a step back, Jide's bodyguards rushed forward, but it was too late. Ngozi tossed a brown envelope into the air. Papers scattered everywhere. Bank statements, photos, contracts. "Ask him about the deal he made," Ngozi shouted. "Ask him who he really is." The cameras flashed wildly. The air was filled with the sound of snapping pictures and shouting voices. Amina turned to her husband. "Tell me the truth," she demanded, her voice trembling. "Who are you, Jide?" He looked at her, his eyes full of pain and guilt. "Amina, everything I did for us." But before he could explain, the police sirens wailed in the distance. And in that frozen moment, the man the world had just discovered was a billionaire, took Amina's hand and whispered, "Run!" Her breath caught. "Run!" "Why?" Jide's face hardened. "Because the truth is coming, and it's bigger than both of us." As they bolted toward the waiting car, villagers screamed, reporters shouted, and the police vehicles roared closer. Amina's world collapsed in confusion. Was her husband really a billionaire, or something far more dangerous? The car door slammed shut, and they disappeared down the dusty road, leaving chaos behind. The crowd was left speechless. And so begins the story of a poor village girl who married a man the world thought was worthless, only to discover he had more secrets than she could ever imagine. Don't forget to like and subscribe, And turn on Notification Squad for more gripping African stories like this. What do you think Jide is hiding from Amina? Comment your thoughts below. They didn't stop driving until the tar road thinned into a red earth track that only goats seem to trust. Jide killed the engine behind a wall of cashew trees and led Amina on foot through a narrow path she dimly remembered from childhood, back when her mother sent her to buy pepper from a roadside widow and warned her never to linger after sunset. They reached a small, mud-walled hut beside a shallow stream. A broken wooden paddle leaned against the doorway, a relic from seasons when the water rose high enough to carry dreams downstream. Jide pushed the door. It creaked like a tired elder and guided her inside. "Sit," he said gently. "Let me speak before anyone else does." Candles burned low in old soda bottles. On the table sat a tin of Gary, a bag of beans, and a clean mat. Too clean for a place this forgotten. Amina realized this was no random hideout. He had prepared it. "Start with why you lied," she said, voice steady out of stubbornness, not calm. "Start with why I married a poor man who steps out of a Rolls Royce?" Jide nodded once, then looked at the dirt floor as if it were a page he needed to read. "You remember how your father's shop burned?" he asked. "The night the petrol lamp fell, and the debt collector promised to return with humiliation?" Amina stiffened. The story was a wound. Everyone in Kuta village knew it. After the fire, whispers turned to pity, then pity to pressure. The collector, Chief Bala, had stood by the door, tapping his walking stick, counting the days like beads. When he hinted that Amina could work off the debt by marrying his nephew, a drunk with quick hands, her father broke into silent tears. "In the market," Jide continued, "I overheard your father begging for time. I didn't know you then, but I knew that kind of fear." He paused. "I paid the debt." Amina blinked. "That's not possible. We never knew the helper. Baba said a stranger helped and vanished." "I had to vanish," Jide said, "because of the investigation, because of the people watching me." He told her simply that years ago he had inherited a ruined patch of land and a ledger of insults. He left for Lagos with nothing but a battered backpack, washing cars by day and taking night classes under a flickering tube light. He learned numbers. He learned patience. And then, working behind the scenes, he partnered quietly with investors who didn't care where he slept. Only that the sums added up. The shell companies, the trusts, the quiet purchases of broken buildings on the city's edge. He built J.O. Holdings, brick by invisible brick, refusing to put his face on anything. The poor farmer in Kuta was his armor. "And the video with Akinwell Group?" Amina asked, remembering Ngozi's phone held like a knife. "You were signing their papers." "I was signing a trap," he said. "They inflate contracts, swallow community land, then grin for the cameras on donation day. I needed proof, inside proof, to return what they stole. Ngozi, she didn't like the man I became when I refused their games." Silence settled, broken by bush crickets and Amina's heartbeat. In that quiet, the memory of their beginning crept back in. The day her father arranged the meeting, Jide arrived in faded jeans and worn sandals, carrying a small calabash of palm wine and a nervous smile. He stuttered through the greeting, but looked every elder in the eye. The bride price had been modest. Too modest, the aunties hissed. And the wedding was simple: a canopy of raffia, 2 plastic chairs, praise singers with dusty drums, and a sudden shower that blessed the yard and soaked her Yale. She had been angry then, angry and trapped. But after the wedding, small things began to shift the ground. The way Jide fixed the cracked cooking stool with patient hands, the envelope he sent from a friend to keep her younger brother in school, the new well dug at the edge of the village, donated by the farmers' cooperative. She'd found his penmanship on the receipt once. He denied it with a lopsided grin and bad-lying eyes. Now in the candlelight, the bad liar finally spoke plainly. "I hid my name because greed hunts names," he said, "and I wanted a marriage that chose me without the noise." Amina swallowed. "But you did choose noise, Jide. The kind that wears medals and drives convoys." He managed a tired smile. "I didn't plan the medal." From outside came the crunch of footsteps on dry leaves. Jide's smile vanished. He peered through the slit in the door, then moved back, jaw tight. "How did they find us?" Amina whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached under the table and pulled out a flat metal box. its surface engraved with a palm frond crest. He snapped it open. Inside lay documents, thick, official, stamped, and a sleek black card she'd never seen. The name on the documents stole her breath. Amina Adewale, listed as majority beneficiary of an international trust. "What is this?" she breathed. "My apology," he said. "My protection for you, in case I failed." From the night, a flashlight beam cut through the crack in the door. Voices approached. 2, maybe 3. Amina's hands shook as she lifted the top sheet and read the asset list her own name owned. Her knees weakened. A hard knock exploded on the wood. "Open! Police!" Jide squeezed her hand. "Listen, the same people who steal villages are now calling the police. Amina, do you trust me enough to walk into light with me? Or do we run deeper into shadow?" Before she could answer, a second voice, female, sharp, cut through the door. "Amina, it's Inspector Folaka. We need to talk. Not to him, to you. Those assets are in your name. If you don't step out now, you may take the fall." Amina stared at the papers, at her name, at the door turning into a threat. The man she married as a poor farmer had made her the holder of a fortune, and possibly the bait. The handle turned. "If you're gripped by this moment, tell us where you're watching from and what you would do in Amina's place. Would you step out and face the law, or trust Jide and run? Have you ever seen a secret like this tear a family or a village apart? Share your thoughts below. If this story has you hooked, like this video and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to your screen. The handle twisted a second time, slow and deliberate, and Amina felt the air in the hut thin to a thread. Jide's fingers tightened around hers. He shook his head once, a warning, then released her hand and slid the metal box back under the table. "Amina," Inspector Folak called again through the door, voice steady. "I'm here on a warrant, but I'm also here as a woman who knows what it is when men play chess with people's homes. Step outside where we both can see the truth." Jide mouthed, "Don't." He moved to the back window, really a rectangle cut out of mud wall and covered with raffia, and lifted the mat just enough to scan the tree line. "2 vehicles," he whispered. "One marked, one not. The second isn't from her." Amina's pulse drummed. She thought of Baba's hands shaking as he counted coins that didn't matter, of the way Jide had sanded splinters from their stool without being asked, of Ngozi's cold smile in the square. Secrets were heavy. They bent bridges. "Open," Amina said, louder than her courage felt. She lifted the latch. Inspector Folake stood with 2 officers, uniforms dusty from the bush path. Her hair was braided tight, cap tucked under one elbow, eyes alert but not cruel. She held up a folder sealed with red tape and the court crest. "Search and seizure for assets linked to Africantales, land acquisitions and shell companies," she said. "Your name is on half the trusts." "I didn't know," Amina said. Truth and shame formed a knot. "I only learned today." "You're not the first," Folak replied. "But if you don't make a statement now, others will write your story for you." Her eyes flicked past Amina into the hut to where Jide stood in shadow. "You didn't come alone," Jide said. "Who's in the second vehicle?" Folak's jaw worked. "That's why I'm speaking fast. We were followed on the main road. I need to move you before—" A crunch of gravel cut her off. From the trees, a glossy black pickup rolled into view, its plates covered in dust but too new, too polished for this forgotten path. 4 men jumped down, plain clothes, sunglasses, the swagger of people who never apologized. The one in front flashed a badge so quickly, it was only a bright rectangle. "We're taking the woman," he said. "Orders from above." Folak stepped forward, calm gone. "Identify your unit," she said. "Now!" The man smirked. "You're out of your lane, Inspector. This is bigger than Kuta. Bring her." He tilted his head at 2 of his men. They moved in a loose V, hands hovering near their belts. Amina's mouth dried. Jide's body shifted slightly, placing himself half a step in front of her without making it obvious. He said evenly, "Don't touch my wife." Folak's voice snapped like a whip. "Back off. She's in my custody." Her hand hovered a split second over her holster before she let it fall. She looked at Amina. "Choose. With me and you give a statement at the district office. With them, you disappear into orders from above. Jide didn't look away from the men. You know I didn't steal. The money in your name is clean. It's the leverage I kept to force the Ackenwell books open. And now your leverage is a target, Folek said. Amina, listen to me. They only need you scared enough to sign one paper, and it's done. We'll put you on record before they do. Amina's mind flashed to Ngozi lifting the phone in the square. She heard the villagers gasp, the sirens, the single word run, and wondered if she had been running since childhood, from debt, from pity, from the shape of other people's plans for her life. Give me one truth you never told anyone, she said suddenly, turning to Jide. Right now. He took a breath. I funded the new clinic, he said, anonymous, through Folek's cousin, to make sure at least one anchor in this place wasn't tied to Ackenwell loans. Folek blinked, surprised despite herself. You what? It's in the ledger under the Fishermen's Cooperative, Jide said. Check the stamp dates. The men from the pickup shifted, impatient. The leader barked, Time's up! Amina felt the choice split her like lightning. She stepped forward out of the doorway and lifted her chin. Inspector, I'll give my statement. Relief and urgency crossed Folek's face at once. Good, we move, now. The first plainclothes man reached for Amina's arm. Folek blocked him with her forearm. Touch her and I arrest you. State your unit. The man smiled the way a snake might if it learned how. Unit, the one that wins. Everything happened at once. The second man lunged. Jide pulled Amina back. An officer with Folek raised a hand, shouting. A third man fired a warning shot into the air that shattered a branch and sent birds screaming into the sky. From the hut, the flat metal box fell, burst open, and papers feathered across the threshold. Trust schedules, land maps, the palm frond crest catching sunlight like a signal. The leader scooped a paper midair, scanning, face hardening. So it's true, he said softly. The girl is the key. He reached again, faster, fingers brushing Amina's wrist. And from the road behind the trees, a second siren wailed closer, louder, different. Another vehicle burst into the clearing, brakes screaming, door flying open. Ngozi stepped out first. Boys, she called to the plainclothes men, voice silk over steel. Be gentle. The bride is valuable. Amina's breath hitched. Around her, uniforms and not quite uniforms formed a tightening circle. Folek's lips pressed into a thin line. Jide's hand trembled against hers. For the first time, she felt it. Decide, Amina, Ngozi said, almost tender. With law that can't protect you, or with power that can. The new silence was worse than gunfire. If this chapter had you on edge, hit like to keep the story flowing. Subscribe so you don't miss the next twist, and share this with someone who loves high-stakes drama. What choice should Amina make next? Comment your thoughts. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The air held together by the sound of crickets and the soft hiss of the stream. Amina squared her shoulders. If she was the key, she would choose the door. I'm going with Inspector Folek, she said. I'll make my statement in daylight, not in a bush at gunpoint. The plainclothes men fanned wider. Ngozi's smile never reached her eyes. Statements are pretty, she said, but signatures are power. Sign what I brought and you walk away richer and safer than you've ever been. Folek lifted her warrant folder, voice steady. Any document signed under duress is void. Officer, body cam, on. A small red light blinked alive on the officer's chest. The nearest plainclothes man hesitated, glancing at Ngozi. She dropped her tone to velvet. Record all you like. The court likes paper more than videos. Amina thought of Baba's shop, of the smell of cooked rubber, and the sound of a man trying not to cry. She faced Ngozi. What do you want me to sign? Ngozi's driver produced a slim folder. Inside, the first page bore Amina's name in bold and neat legal type. Transfer of beneficial ownership to a neutral holding entity? Ngozi said softly. No taxes, no questions. We call it housekeeping. Neutral? Jide scoffed. Your family's shell is not neutral. Ngozi's lashes lowered. The world is not neutral, farmer. Amina looked to Jide. Did you put my name there because I mattered to you? Or because I was useful? Jide didn't dodge it. Both, he said. I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. You mattered the day I paid your father's debt. You became useful the day I realized every man on my side had already been bought. Honesty hurt more than lies. Amina blinked hard. And the danger? Did you measure that too? I built the trust to protect you if I fell, he said. I didn't expect the wolves to come smiling. Follett cut in. Mrs. Adewale, if you step into my vehicle, you'll be booked as a protected witness. The district prosecutor's expecting us. Protected witness? The plainclothes leader sneered. Cute. Call your prosecutor. He looked at the bush road and lifted his chin. Let's see who answers. Somewhere beyond the trees, another engine throbbed. The man smirked. There he is. Before anyone could react, two uniformed officers from Follett's unit jogged into the clearing, breathless, one clutching a crackling radio. Ma, update from HQ, he said, voice tight. Order just came. Shift designation on the truss. Effective immediately, the primary suspect is the named beneficiary. A silence fell that made the stream sound loud. Follett's brow furrowed. That doesn't make sense. Who authorized? Acting Deputy DPO, the officer said, not meeting her eyes. Says detain the beneficiary on suspicion of fraud and conspiracy. The plainclothes leader smiled, slow and satisfied. Law and power, he murmured to Amina. See how they hold hands? Follett stiffened. Procedure warred with justice in her face. She turned to Amina, voice low with apology. If I don't follow this, they take you without record. If I do, I can keep you on paper with rights. I can't undo this order from here. Amina's stomach dropped, as if the ground shifted out from under her feet. So I'm under arrest for money I didn't know I had? For now, Follett said, until the statement and the audit. I'll ride with you. I won't let you vanish. Jide stepped forward, fury breaking through his careful restraint. This is what they wanted, he said to Follett. Me helpless, her tagged. He faced Amina, voice raw. Let me fix this. Give me 24 hours and I'll put proof in the open. The clinic, the shells, the bribes, everything. Ngozi tilted her head. 24 hours? To do what? You'll stage another hero speech? We've already staged the ending. She snapped her fingers. Her driver produced a small envelope and flicked a photo into Amina's hands. The image trembled between her fingers. A night shot of Baba's shop before the fire. A man placing a jerry can near the window. On the back, a single line of numbers and a date. Look closely, Ngozi purred. That anonymous Good Samaritan who paid off the debt? Ask yourself why the collector was so desperate to push a marriage in 48 hours. Fires are good storytellers. Amina stared, throat closing. She knew the jerry can, the window grate, the cheap signboard painted with a shaky brush. But the man's face in the photo was turned away, a cap shadowing his jaw. There was only a sleeve, blue with a stitched palm frond crest. A chill ran through her, the same crest etched on Jide's metal box. It's not what you think, Jide said quickly, stepping closer. That crest, it's older. It belonged to my mother's cooperative. It's not... Amina, look at me. Follett lifted gentle hands. Mrs. Adewale, I have to place you under arrest for now. I promise you will speak on record. Hands, please. Amina's vision blurred. She could feel Jide's warmth, hear the dry leaves under boots, the faint buzz of the radio, the breath of the river. She lifted her wrists. Metal kissed them, cold as a verdict. Jide lunged, pure instinct. Two officers pinned him back. The plainclothes men relaxed, enjoying the new shape of the scene. Ngozi watched Amina like a cat watches the line where a bird will land. As Follett guided Amina toward the patrol car, a voice crackled over the radio. A new voice, urgent. All units, stand by. Anonymous file drop received. Industrial estate documents, clinic funding ledgers, and a video confession from... The transmission broke in static. From the trees, a shadow moved. Someone with a phone raised, recording. Amina turned in the half-second before the door shut and saw Jide's face. Fear, love, and something like relief. Because somewhere, someone had just pressed upload. If this chapter held you, drop a like to keep the series going and subscribe so you're first to hear the next reveal. Tell us where you're watching from and weigh in. If you were Amina, would you trust the law or the man you married? Have you ever seen a secret shatter a whole community? Comment below and share this with someone who loves high-stakes drama. Rain began just as the patrol car rolled into the district station, beating on the windshield like a second set of eyes. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed. Inspector Folaki kept a steady hand at Amina's elbow, not rough, not soft, guiding her past a row of metal chairs and a bulletin board of wanted posters that curled at the corners. Booking first, Folak said quietly, then statement. Your rights are on record. They photographed Amina, took her fingerprints, and placed her in a small interview room with a table that had a wobble on one leg. Jide was nowhere in sight. Ngozi had not followed them in. Power didn't like fluorescent lights. A clerk set a recorder on the table, pressed a red button, and left. Folak sat across from Amina, slid over a bottle of water, and opened her file. State your name. Amina Adewale. Do you understand why you're here? I'm listed as beneficiary to trusts I didn't create, and someone wants me to sign them away. Falak nodded and asked the slow, careful questions that build a bridge a court can walk across. How did you meet your husband? When did you first hear of the trusts? Did you ever sign anything? Amina answered, voice steadying as the shape of truth created a path through fear. Midway through the statement, the door opened and a young officer leaned in, eyes wide. Ma, the anonymous drop. IT pulled it apart. It's big. Falak stood. Pause the record. She gestured for Amina to follow to a side office where two tech officers hunched over a battered desktop. On the screen, folders multiplied like new roads. Ledgers, scanned receipts, a list of shell companies that repeated the same 3 directors in different orders. A short video sat at the top with the title, For the Girl. The timestamp was 20 minutes old. Play it, Folak said. A man filled the screen, tired eyes, gray at the temples, the kind of neat shirt accountants wear when they're done with excuses. He sat at a desk, face lit by a desk lamp. My name is Jonah, he said. Senior Auditor, Ackenwell Group. I'm recording this because every paper I filed went missing and every complaint I made died in a meeting room. He described a ring of land acquisitions disguised as charity, loans tied to village clinics that siphoned money into neutral entities, and a list of beneficiaries used as shields, names of women with clean reputations, chosen because they wouldn't be questioned until it was too late. Amina Adewale, Jonah said, looking straight into the camera. Your name was added the week your husband refused the last kickback. The plan was to make you look like the thief and break him. A gasp slipped from Amina before she could stop it. On the screen, Jonah held up a blue sleeve with a palm frond crest, identical to the one etched on Jide's metal box. If they show you a photo of this, he said, know it belonged to a cooperative my team copied to frame internal transfers. They forged stamp marks. They forged time. A man in a blue sleeve put a jerry can by your father's window the night before the fire. Yes, but he was ours. We did it to force a quick marriage elsewhere, then push the debt collector's nephew. Your husband ruined that plan. He paid the debt before we could close the trap. The room went quiet except for the rain. Jonah's eyes flicked down to notes. Proof of bribes, the trust tree, and a ledger that shows where the clinic money really went are all in this drop. If I disappear, this stands as my statement. The video ended. No flourish, no music. Just the blank face of a gray desktop and 3 people staring at it like it might breathe again. Folak exhaled. We can move now. She rattled off orders. Mirror the files, notify the prosecutor, secure Amina as a cooperating witness. Grab a warrant for Ackenwell's local office. The text moved fast like people afraid to slow down. Amina sat back, dizzy with a different kind of fear. So Jide, he didn't burn the shop? According to this, he stopped the marriage they wanted, Folak said. But we still verify. We don't build truth on a single video. Outside the office, a shout erupted. A desk sergeant argued with someone in the lobby. The door to the side room slammed open, and a courier in a rain-soaked hoodie stepped in, ignoring the protest behind him. He held a sealed document pouch and a small brass key on a string. The key bore the palm frond crest. For Mrs. Adewale, he said, eyes flat. They said you'd know where it fits. Who sent you? Folake asked, hand inching toward her belt. The courier shrugged. No name, just this. He placed the pouch on the table, turned and melted back into the noise. Folake sliced the seal with her nail and pulled out a single page. A court order, real seal, real signature, granting an emergency hearing in 2 hours on the status of Amina's trust. Attached was a note, handwritten. If you want him alive, bring the key to the old clinic well. Come alone. Midnight. Under the ink, a drop of rain spread the letters like tears. Amina stared at the key, the crest she had come to fear. Him, she whispered. They have Jide. Rain hammered the roof harder, a drumbeat counting down. If this chapter has you hooked, tap like to keep the story moving. Subscribe so you don't miss the midnight showdown, and share with someone who loves high-stakes twists. What do you think the key opens? And should Amina risk going alone? Comment below. 2 hours later, the courtroom smelled of wet coats and old paper. Ceiling fans pushed humid air in slow circles. Amina sat at the front beside Inspector Folake and the district prosecutor, while a clerk arranged the anonymous files into neat, accusing stacks. On the other side, lawyers in dark suits whispered like rustling leaves. Ngozi did not sit. She stood at the back, arms crossed, a calm storm. The judge, an older woman with silver in her hair and a gaze that cut through performance, called the hearing to order. The prosecutor laid out the case in clean lines. The anonymous auditor's confession, the forged cooperative stamps, the trusts built like cages. When he finished, Folake played Jonah's video. Silence spread as the words, "for the girl," glowed on the screen. The judge leaned forward, elbows on the bench. When the video ended, she turned to Amina. Mrs. Adewale, she said, voice steady. Were you aware of these trusts before today? No, my lord, Amina said. Her own voice surprised her, clear, anchored. Are you willing to cooperate fully with the investigation? Yes, my lord. The defense tried to buy time, asking for a delay, questioning the chain of custody, sniffing at anonymous files. The judge listened, then lifted her gavel. This court will not be used as a washing line for dirty money. Temporary injunction granted. No transfer, no sale, no signature by any party without this court's approval. Mrs. Adewale is designated a protected cooperating witness. Inspector, keep her under watch, not under lock. Ngozi's mouth tightened, the first crack in a porcelain face. Outside, rain thinned to mist. Folake walked Amina down the steps. The injunction buys us hours, not weeks, she said. We still don't have Jide. Amina touched the brass key on the string in her pocket, feeling the palm frond crest press a circle against her skin. Midnight. The old clinic, well, come alone. Let me go, she said. Folake shook her head. It's bait. I know, Amina replied, surprising herself again. But bait can choose how it's eaten. They spent the afternoon turning the anonymous drop into action. Warrants requested, officers briefed, safe houses checked. But every time they tried to lean on Africantales' known fronts, doors opened and closed without answers, as if someone had sent a warning ahead of them. At dusk, a text arrived on the phone of the desk sergeant, a number with no name, a low-resolution photo of Jide, hands bound, head up, a timestamp. One word, midnight. Folake set a map on the table, traced a route with her pen. The old clinic is on the river's bend beyond Kuta. The well sits in a courtyard, 2 exits. If we approach loud, they move him or vanish. Then don't approach loud, Amina said. Let me walk in. You're not trained. I've been trained by life, Amina said, thinking of fires and debts, of lives measured in market prices and gossip. Besides, they want me whole. The key is supposed to fit something. Folake looked at her for a long beat. You walk in with a mic. My team sits dark at 3 angles. You talk until you see him. If they try to move you, we break the circle. And the key? You keep it hidden until you know what door it opens. Midnight arrived like a held breath. The old clinic was a low concrete building with paint peeling in pale curls, windows bricked years ago when politics shifted the budget. The well squatted in the courtyard, a torn rope slapping the stone mouth every time the wind turned. Frogs sang from the reeds. The moon dragged a long, uncertain light across the ground. Amina stepped into the courtyard alone. She wore a simple wrapper and a gray hoodie, hair tied back, hands steady at her sides. The tiny mic was clipped under the seam at her collar. Somewhere in the trees, Folake watched through night optics. Teams spread like whispers. "You came," a voice said. Ngozi emerged from shadow, not in a gown now but dark trousers and boots, hair covered with a scarf. Two men stood behind her, the same slow swagger as the bush road, but their sunglasses were gone and their eyes were flat. "Where is my husband?" Amina asked. Ngozi ignored the question. She pointed to the well. "Your key," she said softly, "fits there. Not in the stones, in the mechanism below. When the old clinic was renovated, we built a vault under the wellhead. Money, ledgers, drives, the heart of the matter. We meant for a friendly name to open it at the right time. Fate handed us yours." A shape shifted in the darker doorway. Jide stepped into the moonlight, hands bound at the front now, face drawn but unbroken. Relief rose in Amina so sharp it hurt. "Let him go," she said. "I'll open it." "No," Folak's voice hissed in her ear. "Stall." "Do you know what you're asking me to open?" Amina asked aloud, keeping her tone curious, buying seconds. "If you already own the paper, why the well?" Ngozi's eyes softened, almost fond. "Because power keeps a souvenir," she said. "Paper burns. Stone remembers." Amina walked to the well. She could see beneath the lip, a brass plate corroded green around a keyhole. She ran her fingertips over the edge, feeling old damp, the grit of time. She slid her hand into her pocket and curled her fingers around the key, but did not bring it out. "What happens when I open it?" she asked. "Then I count to 10, Ngozi said, "and your husband walks away." Amina looked up at Jide. He met her eyes, and in them she read the one thing that had carried them from a dusty wedding canopy to this heavy night. Trust, bruised but alive. She drew the key out. It caught the moon and threw a small circle of light on her palm. The men behind Ngozi shifted. In Amina's ear, Folake murmured, "On my mark." Amina knelt, the world narrowing to the brass plate and the hole that promised answers and danger at once. She slid the key toward the mouth of the well and froze, because from deep below, something clinked against stone, like metal brushing metal, as if someone else already waited in the dark with a key of their own. The clink rose again, faint, metallic, a whisper from the deep. Amina's breath hitched. She glanced at Ngozi, whose calm finally cracked, the tiniest flinch at the sound she hadn't planned. "There's someone in the vault," Amina said, louder than the night. "Or something moving." Ngozi's smile returned, thinner. "Mechanisms echo. Open it." Amina's fingers hovered above the keyhole. In her ear, Inspector Folake's voice was steady. "Hold, Amina. Infrared picks movement below the well. One heat signature, not a mechanism." The two men behind Ngozi shifted, hands on their waistbands. Jide took a step, slow and deliberate. "You won't shoot," he said softly. "You need her hand." "Then give me her hand," the leader snapped and lunged. Amina did something she had never practiced but had learned from 100 market days. She stepped into the lunge rather than away, and the man's balance broke for one crucial beat. The key flashed in her palm. She closed her fist. "Now!" Folake breathed. The darkness rippled with motion. 3 figures rising from the grass in the clinic's broken windows, red dots blinking on forearms, the slap of boots. "Police, drop it!" Folake's voice cut the courtyard clean. The plainclothes men spun, caught between 2 instincts and 1 command. One threw his gun, the other froze, then lifted both hands. Ngozi didn't run. She moved with eerie poise toward the well, eyes on Amina. "This ends with stone," she said. "You can let your husband live poor again, or you can open the door that sets you both beyond touch." Amina heard the clink once more, and suddenly she knew. Not about money or bait, but about the way fear makes people hide like rats in blue-lit offices. "You're not talking to me," she said quietly. "You're talking to him." She angled the keyhole to the moon. The brass plate was old, its edges corroded, but the keyhole's wear was fresh, the scratches narrow and vertical. Someone had tried recently, and not from above. "Back away," Folake called, advancing in a crouch. "Hands visible now." Ngozi lifted her chin. "You'll arrest me in the name of a court I fund?" You fund its leaks, Folake replied. Tonight, the roof held. A voice floated up from the well, thin and hoarse. Help! Jide startled. He knew that voice. Jonah! Silence. Then, they kept me to bury the rest. Ngozi's composure wavered for the first time. He was supposed to be gone. Amina met Folek's eyes. If we pull him up alive, we pull the whole case. Do it, Folek said. Two officers moved, roping a new line to the old pulley. Amina knelt, and for the first time that night, brought the key to the lock. She slid it in and turned. A dull thump answered. A release far below. The stone rims shivered. A section of the wellhead rotated a quarter turn, revealing a narrow ladder and a smell of damp paper and oil. Cold air exhaled like a secret finally spoken. Hold your positions, Folek ordered. She slung a second rope around the ladder and signaled. The officers lowered a flashlight, then a harness. Jonah, hook on, she shouted. Metal scraped. A cough. The line went taut. Slowly, with the creak of old iron, a thin man emerged into moonlight, dust-streaked and blinking. Jonah, the auditor from the video, alive. The courtyard held its breath. He stumbled, then looked up at Amina, as if she were the first honest thing he'd seen in weeks. I kept the ledgers with me, he croaked. They wanted clean shelves after the fire. You put the jerry can? Amina asked, voice shaking. He shook his head hard. I filmed the one who did. The video's below. I wouldn't light a match. Folek's team moved in a practice blur. One officer clipped a recorder to Jonah. Another descended for the drives. A third took custody of the two men. Ngozi stood very still as Folek approached, cuffs in hand. For bribery, coercion, conspiracy to defraud, and unlawful detention, Folek said. You're under arrest. Ngozi finally tried to step back. Jide moved without thinking, blocking her path. No more shortcuts, he said. She lifted her gaze to Amina, no longer cool, just tired, bitter. You'll drown in court date, she said. The rich don't lose. We reschedule. The poor don't vanish, Amina replied. We remember. They took Ngozi away. The vault's belly gave up its heart, ledger books with the palm frond crest, hard drives in sealed bags, a memory card wrapped in a handkerchief. On it, as Jonah promised, a clear night video showed a man in the cooperative sleeve placing the jerry can, his face bare. Chief Bala's enforcer, the debt collector's shadow. The fire that ruined Baba had been lit for profit. The chain was unbroken now, named a deed to date. By dawn, the injunction became seizure. Ackenwell's local accounts froze. The judge signed a protection order that would have made anyone else blink twice. This time, paper was faster than money. The vault's assets did not disappear into another shell. Under oath, Jonah mapped every transfer. Under oath, Jide surrendered controlling votes, creating a community foundation that ring-fenced the clinics in schools first, salaries second, owners last. In the afternoon, under a sky washed clean, Amina walked back into Kuta with Jide at her side. There was no convoy. Children ran ahead, shouting the news before elders could pretend they hadn't heard it first. Baba stood in the doorway of the rebuilt shop, his hands empty for once, his eyes full. I blamed God the day of the fire, he said, voice unsteady. I should have blamed men. Blame is a beginning, Amina answered, taking his hands. Truth is the road. They did not turn the trusts into gold watches. They turned them into a tap that ran clean at the market, a clinic with medicine that didn't expire in secret, and a scholarship that carried 3 girls from Kuta to accounting classrooms in Lagos. When the Rolls-Royce came again months later, it brought an incubator for the maternity ward and left before anyone could practice a bow. Amina and Jide sat by the stream one evening, the hut behind them repaired but left simple on purpose. He stared at the water, then at her. I wanted a life with you that didn't need armor, he said. I hid to be chosen. That was my pride. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Then let's choose each other loudly, she said. No secrets, only plans. He laughed, free finally. Plans, Madam Beneficiary? Mrs. Adewale, trustee, she corrected, and they both laughed again. Their marriage did not become a fairy tale. It became something better. Ordinary on most days, braver when it mattered, accountable when it hurt. The village learned new words: injunction, ledger, audit, and older ones: neighbor, witness, repair. And the well that once hid a vault became a wishing place again. Children tossed pebbles into its mouth and counted ripples like promises kept. Thank you for staying with this story to the end. If it moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale. Share this with someone who loves gripping dramas with real heart. What part hit you hardest? The secret vault, the court fight, or the final choice Amina made? Tell us in the comments.